Okay, so let's start by just look around the environment you're sitting in, the room or the yard or wherever you are. Just notice the things there. You know, if you're at home, you got a lot of familiar things. They're like old friends. You know, there's the couch. There's the coffee table. There's the door, there's the window. All these old friends. And just notice how nicely they're all being, right? There's the couch, and maybe the couch is, in my case, the couch is green and the couch is soft, and it's also being. And the coffee table is obviously harder than the couch, and it's a yellowish color, and it's also being. The fountain outside the window, as it burbles away and the hummingbirds chase each other around it, is being. And the hummingbirds are being. And the fountain burbles or gurgles, whatever you call that sound, but the being of it, the beingness of it, which is the same in the fountain, the same in the couch, the same in the microphone, same in me, that doesn't have any sound, doesn't have any color. The green couch is a green couch, but its being is not green. It's just being. Simple. So we're surrounded by all these different things being. They're all showing us how to do it. It's completely silent. Even the beingness of the hummingbirds, they're, chasing each other and making a little racket with their little high pitched voices. But their beingness it just is exactly the same as the beingness of the couch, and exactly the same as the beingness of ourselves. So let's just sit and marinate in that beingness that's inside us, it's all around us. You could have your eyes closed if you like, or open if you like. It really doesn't matter. Just resting in that beingness. Just open your pores to that beingness. Silent, colorless, right here. Never have to look for it. Always right here. Just marinating in it, melting into it, letting go into it. Notice that thoughts come and go, feelings, sounds, sensations come and go, but none of it conflicts with beingness. All of it has its own beingness, in fact. So we don't have to be caught up in anything that comes and goes, any thoughts or feelings. But if you do feel you've gotten caught up, you just take a deep breath and let go omnidirectionally, 360 degrees. Breathing back out into the beingness and once again resting in it. Once again marinating in it. And take a minute, and then you can slowly open the eyes. Okay, good. So let's read some more Kabir. If you're still opening your eyes, take your time. Hi, Jody. So I'm going to read another one. If you've got this book, it's on page 74. I have been thinking of the difference between water and the waves on it. Rising, water's still water. Falling back, it is water. Will you give me a hint how to tell them apart? Because someone has made up the word wave Do I have to distinguish it from water? There is a secret one inside us. The planets in all the galaxies pass through his hands like beads. That is a string of beads one should look at with luminous eyes. Okay, Kabir does it again. Hits another one out of the park. I have been thinking of the difference between water and the waves on it. Rising, water still water. Falling back, it is water. Will you give me a hint how to tell them apart? Because someone has made up the word wave, do I have to distinguish it from water? There is a secret one inside us. The planets in all the galaxies pass through his hands like beads. That is a string of beads one should look at with luminous eyes. Okay, so talk to me. What are you getting from this? What's striking you here? What do you like, or what is puzzling, or what do you feel? Yeah, Yafa, and you can unmute yourself.
Um, I mean, to me, this seems like the most straightforward. It's like he's saying
Yep,
it like he's been saying it, and all the teachers say it. It's pretty much
right,
there. It is. Nothing
right.
mysterious here, really,
Yeah, right, right,
or hard to figure out.
right, right. You know, it's for those of us who've been in this Dharma biz for a while, it's sort of hard to comprehend that some people might, buy this book, sit down, read that poem, and it would be the very first time they'd ever been exposed to that metaphor of ocean and waves for, for the structure of reality. Um, but yeah, I've been saying it so long, and more than once I've had, people come to me in a workshop or something, and they go, that thing you came up with about waves and ocean, that's so brilliant. How did you come up with that? And of course, it's been there for centuries. Yeah, very, very straightforward. But one thing that's interesting to me is the way it points out, almost kind of indicts words, language, as how this happens. How we come to think that we're living in a world of separate, disconnected objects. So we have words for them, we have labels for them, and that reinforces the impression that they're separate, disconnected, independent objects. It's interesting in the book of Genesis, where you start with the state of innocence, the state of, really, it's the state of enlightenment before falling into ignorance and suffering, which gets the fact that what you hear, the way you hear this in church is, oh, they fell into sin, is, sorry, that's not my fault. That's right. And in fact, by the way, the Greek word that's translated as sin in the New Testament is amartia. Amartia literally means missing the mark. Like when you're shooting your arrow at the target, if you miss the bullseye, you're off. It doesn't mean, oh my God, you got the cooties of original sin. You're stained. It just means, oh, you're off a little. Just correct your aim, right? So this is how we fall into non-enlightenment. Our aim is a little bit off. And one of the ways we do it is by being caught up in the words of things. So in the book of Genesis, first you have Adam and Eve living in the state of, just oneness with everything. And then God brings all the creatures one by one in front of Adam, and he has Adam name them. Right? Adam says, okay, that's the tiger. Okay, that's that's an armadillo, whatever. So, and then the next thing you know, they get kicked out of there. So there is a sense of the connection of those things. That by giving things words, and then we got to use words, but by falling into the spell of words, the thinking that just because we have separate words for things, that makes them separate, disconnected things. That's how we, or at least that's a part of how we fall into duality, how we fall into non-enlightenment. But then there's the one other image. He shifts. And by the way, let's remember, as we're reading Kabir, he didn't write this stuff down. He was the enlightened weaver, just sitting there at his loom, weaving and spontaneously singing these sacred songs that just poured out of him, and other people scribbling them down. So what else comes out here? There is a secret one inside us. The planets in all the galaxies pass through his hands like beads. All right. So what we can assume he's referring to here is a mala. Like this. A lot of you are familiar with these. You see them made out of different kinds of materials. And traditional, this is in the West it's called a rosary. By the way, the Christians got it from the Hindus. When the Christian missionaries went to India, they saw the Hindus doing their mantras on these, right? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare, right? And they were made out of rosewood. And that's how the malas that the Christians brought back to Europe got to be called rosary. So you see this all the time in Hindu countries and Buddhist countries. The beads passing through your hands each time you say the name, one of the divine names. You touch another bead. And typically you go around in cycles of, usually there's 108 beads is the magic number. So that would be a very common sight in Kabir's India. How does he use that image? There's a secret one inside us. The planets and all the galaxies pass through his hands like beads. So God's mala is the galaxies, is the universe. Right? All the movements of the planets and the stars are the beads moving through the hands of God. It's so beautiful. The secret. But where is that God? Even as I'm saying that, I'm picturing, a big man in the sky. But what does it say? Where is this God? There is a secret one inside us. It's the beingness. It's the silent witness. It's the self, capital S. That is a string of beads. That is a mala, is probably in the original. One should look at with luminous eyes. So then it's not just God that gets to do it. You see, we get promoted at the end. If we look at the beads as they pass through our hands, as at the planets, as of course, what this means is it's everything. As the coffee passes by, you take a sip. As the next thing, the dog barks outside. It's all the beads and the divine mala. And if you're just seeing it as, oh, damn dog's making a racket again, coffee's not as good as yesterday. Okay, that's one way to live life. But if you looking at it at a deeper level, looking at it with the luminous eyes that we get through our meditative practice and our devotional practice, whatever, our falling in love with life, then we experience it all as the divine mala. Yeah, good. Anything else on that one? But yeah, pretty straightforward, pretty great.
What was Jody gonna say?
Was Jody going to say something? Oh,
Yeah.
I did see. I'm sorry, she didn't raise her hand. I was on speaker view. I was looking at myself. Yes, Jody. Yes, please. Yeah, unmute. There you go.
Give me a minute. Well, I like your explanation better. You know,
Oh.
I was getting the sense of the first part with the waves. I felt like he was being a little silly and playful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, will you give me a hint how to tell them apart?
Yeah. Yeah, like, come on, give me a break.
I heard him
Is the
giggle a little.
tone of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I kind of stayed in that silly, playful place. And when I pictured the planets like beads going through that secret one's hands, it was almost like I sort of felt this image of like a child on a beach picking up sand, and it just, just that completely like fluid state of the sand, and then compared to the planets and the galaxies, they seem so big and real and real.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, nope, just
Yeah. Yeah. They're just beads.
dust.
Yeah. 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 Lovely. Lovely. But yeah, lightness always works. Lightness always works. Yeah, Kelly?
Well, it seems to me he's saying everything have a divine touch.
Yeah. 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 Everything's divine. Everything is the divine. Everything is the beingness. All the divinity that there is in every single point, every single inch, and every single moment of creation. Otherwise, it ain't divine. Otherwise, it's not infinite. The infinite has to be every single shred of the finite, or it's not infinite. But we miss it. We have to look at it with luminous eyes. We have to get our windshield cleaned. Yeah, I'm imagining little windshield wipers on my glasses here. Elton John had a pair of glasses like that, as a matter of fact. Yeah, it's, most of us, I mean, some people are lucky. They're just naturals. They fall into it one day and they never fall out of it, and just, see everything divine. Sometimes if it happens suddenly like that, they need guidance, Sri Ramana Maharshi, many of you familiar with him, the great mid-20th century enlightened saint in India, and he just fell into it at the age of 16. But then the senior monks had to kind of take hold and tell him, look, guy, you have to keep eating. When the bugs crawl onto your legs and start eating away your flesh, you have to brush them away, because he was so just kind of intoxicated by that luminous, oh, the bugs are divine, right? So there is some integrating of those two things. You sometimes learn, yeah, the bugs are divine, but we like you. We want you to stick around for a while, so please brush the bugs off your hands and keep eating. And he was just living in a cave up on Mount. Help me out here. Yeah, what's the name of that mountain? We were in that cave in the town of Tiruvannamalai. Arunachala. Thank you. Yeah, and they eventually, after some years, they coaxed him down from his cave to the bottom of the mountain, and they built an ashram around him. And eventually, people came from all over the world to get his guidance. And he never left that spot again. Just like hey, everything's divine here. Why do I need to go anywhere else? So yeah, he had the luminous eyes. Let's read another one. Page 70. Between the conscious and the unconscious, the mind has put up a swing. All earth creatures, even the supernovas, sway between these two trees, and it never winds down. Angels, animals, humans, insects by the million, also the wheeling sun and moon. Ages go by, and it goes on. Everything is swinging. Heaven, earth, water, fire, and the secret one slowly growing a body. Kabir saw that for 15 seconds, and it made him a servant for life. Read that again. Between the conscious and the unconscious, the mind has put up a swing. All earth creatures, even the supernovas, sway between these two trees, and it never winds down. Angels, animals, humans, insects by the million, also the wheeling sun and moon. Ages go by, and it goes on. Everything is swinging. Heaven, earth, water, fire, and the secret one slowly growing a body. Kabir saw that for 15 seconds, and it made him a servant for life. Okay, what are you getting here? Yes, Kelly. You have to unmute.
Seems like he's talking about life, changing, always changing, comes and goes, and it's just moving. Whole this universe is moving, and contracting and expansion and moving. Everything is moving.
Mm-hmm.
And that's life, and I think it's just such a big picture, beautiful big picture to me.
Yeah. Now everything, right? Undoubtedly saying that everything is moving, but moving what way? We could write and this is all going to be inherent in the metaphor that we choose. If we start with a metaphor of a rocket ship, all life is moving, all the beings are moving up and up and up and up, right? Or it's a grand edifice. We're building the great pyramid of life. That's the model a lot of people have, as a matter of fact, without necessarily recognizing it. I think one of the great values of reading literature, especially reading poetry, seeing how metaphors are used, is to recognize how we carry around these unconscious metaphors. We have these stories that we tell ourselves, and very often we don't recognize that they're stories. I actually was just interviewed for someone else's podcast the other day, and we were talking about stories, and I remembered this bit in my book Fear Less, and where I've got a list of common stories that people tell themselves, often unconsciously, like, I'm the good child and I'm responsible for everyone, or I'm the bad child and I will disappoint everyone, or sooner or later people always let me down, or I must be intimidating, or I must be desirable, or I have to be my father, or I have to be my mother, or I have to reject my father, I have to reject my mother. These stories, right, on and on. And when we don't recognize that we're telling ourselves these stories, we don't realize they're stories, and we get them, we think they're reality. Once we recognize that they're stories, they, you know, to kind of haul them up into the light of day, they tend to evaporate. So often I think we tend to encapsulate these stories in unconscious metaphors. Like we think of life as building the Great Pyramid, right? I'm building my pyramid. You're building your pyramid. Is my pyramid is bigger than your pyramid, right? My tower is bigger and grander and has more gold in it than your tower, et cetera, et cetera. Or it's a race, right? That could be an unconscious metaphor. Am I winning the race? Am I losing the race? So here's a metaphor, and it's a swing, or a, you know, swing, a hammock, something that you sling between two trees, and the movement is back and forth, back and forth. It's not like, oh, we're going to go and achieve something somewhere. We're already here, just kind of oscillating, pulsating in the here, pulsing in the now. You know, one of the powerful metaphors, and powerfully misleading metaphors, one that I don't know if kids still do this in school. They did was when I was a kid in school. Remember making timelines, right? Like in history class or science class, okay, the Jurassic period and the Cretaceous period, or okay, the rise and fall of the Roman Empire, and then the Middle Ages and the Renaissance and so forth. And we get this idea that that time is a line, right? And of course, we have to do that. It helps give us some idea of the relationships between the Roman Empire and whatever. But when we really look at our experience of time, look for that line. See if you can find a line. See if you can find anything in the actual experience, not the concept, the actual experience of time that's anything like a line. See if you can find an actual experience of time. Okay. So, you know, so at least it's closer to that reality to say we're just right here. It's always now. We're pulsing in the now. We're swinging in the now. Swinging in the now. By the way, another one of those metaphors, this is a very powerful one, is you know the picture of, you've seen it 1,000 times, of like the fish crawling out of the water, and then the next one he's got the amphibian with the little legs, and then there's the little mammal, and then there's the ape, and then there's the like Neanderthal, and then there's the human, the modern human, and you know they get progressively taller and more straighter and more erect, and there's this idea that, you know, we are the crown of creation. All this evolution has been there for the purpose of culminating in us, and we're the bigger and better. Well, maybe, I don't know, but that's a story. But here's a part we haven't looked at. Where's that swing? Where's that swing between the conscious and the unconscious?
Life and death.
Yeah, could be. Could be. Anything, anyone get anything else from that? You know, life and death, or even, yeah, Lulu?
My take on this particular one, I believe he's talking about life itself
Mm-hmm.
and the oscillation is the vibration of the life,
Mm-hmm.
and the consciousness itself is in everything that we see. Therefore, most of the time we like to name it in order to be able to
Mm-hmm.
conversate about it.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, he's talking about life itself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And specifically this business about between the conscious and the unconscious. That's where
Yeah,
this.
the unconscious one, but the consciousness itself exists, and somehow the consciousness, in my understanding and experience, the consciousness is
Mm-hmm.
not in me, but I am in the consciousness itself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when he's talking about the oscillation of
Mm-hmm.
the life happens, and it's at every moment that it's happening,
Yeah.
it only takes me to recognize it.
Yeah. Again, it's all the stuff. Everything in Kabir is about recognizing. You're right. It's all about opening your eyes. It's about getting those, clearing it off, getting those luminous eyes and seeing what's what. I don't know specifically what the two terms are that here are translated in English as the conscious and the unconscious. But the sense that I get from it is that, okay, there's the stuff that we see. Maybe we could say the seen and the unseen, the known and the unknown, something like that. In any given moment, okay, there's what I'm seeing. I'm hearing the fountain. I'm seeing the couch, all that. That's all what's conscious for me. But then there's this deep mystery. There's this, I don't see breakfast digesting, moving through my intestines. I don't see the thoughts inside the rest of you. We're talking about this, and maybe you're thinking about that, feeling such and such. There's always this, it's like the conscious, the known is maybe kind of like the tip of the iceberg, and there's all this other stuff that we don't know. And that's fine as long as we don't make the mistake of thinking we know it all, right? That there's some importance to respecting the mystery of what all else there is, how much we're surrounded by. Everything is swinging, heaven, earth. So nothing holds still. Everything's in that oscillation. If this goes all the way down to the subatomic level, now we think that things are holding still, that things are solid, that they're chunky, they're solid chunks of matter. But it turns out that it's all, the electrons wheeling around, at a million miles an hour around the nuclei of the atoms. And then the closer you look at the electrons, the more it turns out they're not actually little tiny pieces of dust like I thought when I first learned about that in school. It turns out they're something called probability waves. They're actually just, that's the actual term that's used in physics. It's just a wave function of the probability that the electron is going to show up in a given place at a given time. They're just waves of possible manifestation and unmanifestation. It's all oscillation. It's all vibration. And the secret one slowly growing a body. Again, there's the secret one, the one inside, the witness, the awareness, the absolute, the infinite that's looking through our eyes, through these portals into the finite. Growing a body that grows this body. We think, okay, we start off with matter, Big Bang, and then, then hydrogen, then helium, yada, 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 all the chemicals in the periodic chart, and then we make planets, and then we make bodies and brains, and the very last thing, the crown of creation, is we develop consciousness in our human brains. And all the great spiritual teachers say, no, you got that inside out. There's the awareness, there's the divine, there's the secret one first. And the secret one within, in the Hindu mythology, it's the dream of Vishnu. Vishnu lying on the sea of milk, and out of his navel comes a lotus, and upon that he dreams the creation of the universe. And within that universe we find, oh, hi, I'm Dean. Right? And I think the last thing that happens is I develop consciousness, but consciousness, Vishnu has developed me, the secret one, silently growing a body. And then the fantastic last line. Kabir saw that for 15 seconds, and it made him a servant for life. Right? He's telling us about his awakening. Mm-hmm. His awakening, that happened to him. All it took was 15 seconds of seeing, oh no, I had life inside out. It's not just a bunch of matter, and then the last thing that happens, if you're lucky, you squeeze a couple little drops of conscious experience out of it. It starts with consciousness. It starts with God, that God consciousness, the divine, the one, the being that's a priori. That's before the beginning. That's here before, during, and after us. That's there complete, or before, during, and after what we call us, right? Our little illusory individualities that we mistakenly identify ourselves with, when what we really are is this. Again, this is in the Gospels, where someone's challenging Jesus about his credentials. Oh, I think he says something about, as if he knows something about one of the Old Testament prophets. It's Elijah, I think. And someone challenges him on that. They say, come on, Elijah was hundreds of years ago. You're now. What are you talking about? And and Jesus says, before Abraham and Isaac were, I am. Right? And of course, Abraham and Isaac are the first two generations, the founding of the whole tribe of Israel. So for, within that cultural context, that's like the beginning of the history. So notice he doesn't say before Abraham and Isaac were, I was. He's not saying I'm from a previous and even an earlier time, so I've got priority, so that gives me my street cred. He's got a bigger cred than that. Before Abraham and Isaac were, I am. I'm off the timeline because it ain't a line, right? What I am is beyond time. It's timeless. It's the eternal now. And of course, he makes it clear elsewhere. The thing that people often forget is that, everything he's saying about himself, he's saying about all of us. You are there before time. You're there before. Rupert Spira, a teacher that Yafa and I have spent time with on retreat, will sometimes do an exercise where he'll have you, okay, put your awareness on the Roman Empire. It's right here. It's right here within your awareness. Put your awareness on the dark side of the moon. Put your awareness on the edge of the galaxy. Put your awareness on the clusters of the galaxies. And it helps if you're with someone with that kind of clarity that Rupert has, to just, you go, oh yeah, this awareness, this is what I am. Before the Roman Empire was, I am. Before the galaxies and the moon and all, I am right here. It's all right here. Yeah, Anna, you can unmute yourself.
How you imagine end of galaxy?
I'm sorry,
How,
I did say it again.
How you put your consciousness to end of galaxy? How you imagine?
Yeah.
Empire. I kind of have somehow read some books. I can imagine. But
Yeah.
how you imagine end of galaxy?
Right. Great question. Thank you. Notice the word that you just used. The word you just used was imagine. Now, the root of the word imagine is image. Image. So what that implies is it's like we're going to tune it in on our TV screen and we're going to see something. We're going to see an image. We're going to see something specific. Okay? But that's not what we're talking about. So it's not about imagining. It's not about getting a picture. So at the beginning of the session today, when I invited you to notice, okay, the beingness of the couch, or and the beingness of the fountain, or whatever is in the space where you are right now. Okay. Okay. So let's say, what's an object that's in the room with you, Anna?
Chair.
Chair. Okay. Okay. So let's do two things. First, let's back up one space. So first, imagine the chair. You don't have to look at the chair. You can imagine the chair, right? You get imagine image. You get an image of the chair, picture. Okay. But now feel the beingness of the chair, right? Which has nothing to do with its structure, its color, its picture, right? You got that? You can feel the beingness of the chair. Good. What's another object in the room?
Table.
Table. Okay, good. So imagine the table without looking at it. So you can imagine the table. You see it, the color, the shape, all that. Now, put that down. Relax your grip on that, and feel the beingness of the table.
But they're together. They're not separate.
I'm sorry?
They're not separate. They're together. I can't separate beingness of chair and table. They are somehow just.
Oh, yeah, they're the same.
There.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. They're the same. They're the same. Even though the shape and the material and the texture of the chair is completely different from that of the table, but the beingness is the same. Okay? Now, imagine the moon. Right? You see the moon. Now, relax that image. Just feel the beingness of the moon. Right? Which is the same as the beingness as the chair and the table.
So it's a different distance, so it's not the same. The moon is more far from the
Well,
table.
I want to invite you to continue to play with that, because on the level of the image, yes, it's farther away. On the level of the specifics, it's however many thousands of miles away. But beingness, okay, can you feel like right now I think I'm 3,000 miles away from you, right? You're on the East Coast somewhere, right? Okay. Can you feel the beingness of me? You feel the beingness? No?
I see you. I have your image, so I see you. I have it here.
Yeah.
So I can feel your beingness.
Yeah. Okay. Well, keep playing with it. Keep playing. When you sit in meditation, okay, but at the beginning of the session today, when I invited you, just open yourself, feel the beingness of the friendly beingness, the silent beingness of the objects in the room. You had some sense of that? Okay, good. So what I want to invite you to do, this will be your homework till next time, okay, if you want to do it. Remember, our slogan here is everything is optional. Is just play with feeling the beingness of different objects. Start with other objects that are there that you can see wherever you are. And then start sticking your toe in the water, venturing a little more. What about, when you're talking on the phone with someone, can't you feel their presence? You can maybe use that word, presence, beingness. Even if you don't, maybe you're talking on the phone with a customer service rep. You have no idea what he or she looks like, but you have a sense of their presence, their beingness. Okay? And I think this is a very valuable exercise because
The beingness of moon is much stronger than the beingness of table. somehow. Or no, it's supposed to be exactly the same beingness?
Uh, well, I'm not going to tell you what's supposed to be. You have to find out what is.
Okay.
Okay, you have to find. I'm giving that question back to you. You find out what is. You keep playing with this, and don't. You know the thing. You've heard me say this many times. Don't think. Look. You know, because when we say, "Oh, the moon is supposed to be," that's thinking. That's not looking at your actual experience. That's thinking. And you know, thinking has a certain value. It's the right tool for certain jobs, but not for this job. Yeah, Kelly.
It's a beingness. It's a feeling of a space.
Beingness is the feeling of a space. I would say that's closer. You're getting warm, you know. That's closer than, oh, it's a picture and it's a distance and it's a color and all that. Um, you know, when we say, oh, it's a feeling of space, that becomes more less caught up in specifics, more closer to universality, closer to the silent, invisible, non-phenomenal. Okay, I would say if we keep going with that, we eventually get to, oh no, beingness has to be completely non-phenomenal. In other words, completely devoid of characteristics. So that Anna, when you were saying, oh, but the moon is this far, that's a characteristic. Or the moon is more powerful, that's a characteristic. Or we can use the word quality, that's a quality. Right? So beingness, I would say, this is my experience, is beingness is without quality. That's why we can be so confident. It's the one thing that all things have in common, right? This wave and this wave and this wave are all going to be very different. But what they have in common is they're all the same ocean. But if the ocean of beingness has any qualities whatsoever, it can't be universal. You know, if it's yellow, then it's going to work for the yellow waves, but not for the red waves and the blue waves. So it has to be, as my teacher Maharishi said, just nothing. But there's something very good about it. Right? And fortunately for us, we're not just talking about this abstractly. We're not just philosophers speculating, because we meditate. And every time we meditate, we're settling down our attention into the experience of that just nothing but something very good about it, that experience of beingness. So, you know, so that's like, it's like getting the scent. You know, it's like if you have like a tester, you know, when you go into a department store or something and they have these little perfume testers and you smell, okay, jungle gardenia. That's the scent my mother used to wear. Right? You smell jungle gardenia, and then you can go out into the world. You go out into the crowd, and then every once in a while you smell, oh, jungle gardenia. You recognize it out there. So in a sense, every time we go into meditation, we're getting the scent of beingness, which of course is not a scent. We get the scentless scent of beingness, and then more and more we come out and we recognize it. Oh yeah, it's there, and it's there, and 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 there. And that's what Kabir and Rumi and Hopkins and Whitman and Dickinson, all these poets we haven't gotten to yet, this is what they're all telling us. We actually have to close down now. So may all beings swiftly realize the full glory of the beingness. May all beings swiftly find it everywhere, and thus find out the all-pervasive okayness that runs through even everything that seems to be not okay. And thus may happiness prevail and all conflict evaporate. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dean.
See you later.
Bye.